This is
It's a birthday card. Look at that. Look at it. Somebody remember.
All right, it is 7 p.m. on this August 9th. I'll call this town council meeting to order. Welcome everybody in the chamber, everybody online as well. Thank you for showing up. We will start with a roll call when Ms. McKay gets back.
Mrs. Amos, Mr. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Dwyer,
Here.
Mr. Parrott,
Here.
Mr. Yolen,
Here.
Mr. Hunter, Mr. Hardy.
Here.
I'll recognize that we eked our way into a quorum. And first item on the agenda is the invocation, which I will lead in the Lord's Prayer. If you're so inclined, feel free to join us, and then we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Vice Mayor Reed. All right, thank you. The first item up is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have anybody who wishes to change the agenda, or do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. At any point currently, do we have anybody who wishes to offer up a declaration of personal interest concerning anything on the agenda? Not hearing anyone, we will move to the next item, which is a fun item. Next item up is a presentation of the Old Dominion EMS Alliance Regional Award for Telecommunicator of the Year, and I believe we have Ms. Hooker here from Old Dominion EMS who will present that award.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, good evening. I am Heidi Hooker, the Executive Director of the Old Dominion EMS Alliance, or ODEMSA. It is my honor to address you and share some insights about our organization's mission and an exceptional individual who has made significant contributions to your community and the ODEMSA region. The Old Dominion EMS Alliance is a nonprofit organization and a cornerstone of our region's emergency medical services. Our region encompasses 9,000 square miles. We have over 6,000 EMS providers and 26 hospitals and nearly 100 licensed EMS fire and EMS agencies within our region. Our mission revolves around enhancing emergency medical services across the area, promoting excellence and driving innovation in a field of emergency medical care. One of the ways we accomplish this is through our annual Regional Awards program, an event that recognizes outstanding efforts of individuals who go above and beyond in providing emergency medical services. Today, I'm here to shine a light on a remarkable individual within your community. Could I ask Ethan Whaley to join me, please? Ethan is an extraordinary EMS telecommunications officer. He has been nominated by his peers for the Old Dominion EMS Alliance Regional Award for Outstanding EMS Telecommunications. This award signifies his exceptional dedication and service in a crucial role that often goes unnoticed but plays a vital part in the coordination of emergency response. Ethan's commitment to excellence extends beyond his role as a telecommunicator. He works in 3 different communication centers, showcasing his dedication to serving multiple communities. Ethan's leadership qualities are evident in his recognition as the Farmville Telecommunicator of the Year in 2022 and the Cumberland County Communications Officer in the year of 2017. These awards reflect his outstanding performance and dedication in his role. His achievements, along with his ongoing commitment to improvement, have led to his promotion to shift supervisor in 2021, highlighting his exceptional skills in managing emergency communications. Ethan Whaley is more than deserving of the Odemsa Regional Award for Telecommunications. Because Ethan has now won the regional award, he is automatically nominated to win the Governor's EMS Award in the same category, and this award will be presented in November at the Virginia EMS Symposium. So thank you for your time, and I ask you to join me in congratulating Ethan for his remarkable achievement, and congratulations to the community's safety and well-being.
Thank you, Ms. Hooker, for that presentation, and well done, Ethan Wiley. Thank you. We appreciate all your efforts and the fact that you continue to shine a light on our locality with your excellence. Thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is introduction of Farmville Fire Department's new firefighter. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'd like to introduce you to Farmville's newest full-time firefighter, Mr. Antoine Evans. He comes to us with years of training and experience, as well as being one of our volunteers. He joined the department in January of 2010. Since then, spent countless hours of training, obtaining certifications to better himself and his community. Through the years, he served in multiple capacities to include captain of the volunteers. In his free time, he enjoys to fish, exercise, and do a little baking as well. Also, he likes to serve his community outside the fire department and help coaching youth football. So I'd like to welcome Antoine, and we're excited to have him join our growing department.
Welcome, Mr. Evans, good sir. We appreciate you being here, and as I say often with the police department as well, between the police department and the fire department, we got some good folks here, and so we welcome you to the team. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is an update from the town attorney, Mr. Elder. All of council received an email regarding the PUD ordinance, and it was a legal opinion that had not been solicited. And I would have let that lie, but then it got published in the paper in an op-ed, and so I felt like it was needed for us to have some sort of response to that opinion. And Mr. Elder is going to give us an update on the memorandum from the Hefty, Wiley, and Gore law firm out of Richmond who specializes in local government issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, folks. As Mr. Mayor stated, there was a legal opinion that was issued publicly recently in the Farmville Herald, and it dealt with council's consideration of a PUD ordinance and whether that was permissible in light of the fact that that issue is not specifically addressed in the comp plan. Council asked me to look into it, and realizing there are firms in Virginia who have specialty capabilities of addressing issues exactly like this, we reached out to a firm in Richmond, Hefty, Wiley, and Gore. I think they might have done work for the town in the past.
Sorry, Gary. Apparently there's people saying they can't hear you on the mic there.
Lucky them. All right. Hopefully that's better. So Hefty, Wiley, and Gore has done work for the town in the past, I think specifically with regard to our own comp plan. So we reached out to them and basically asked for a legal opinion on whether town council could in fact consider the passage of a PUD ordinance, Plan Unit Development Ordinance, in light of the fact that it is not specifically called for in the comp plan, and the answer was resoundingly yes. Council is at liberty, should it wish to do so, to adopt that ordinance. The memorandum that we received suggested that council could adopt the ordinance without addressing the comp plan, or council could address the comp plan and then pass the ordinance. But legally, there's no right or wrong. Council is at liberty to do whatever council wishes to do on this issue. So I think it sounds like a copy of that memorandum legal opinion has been circulated. I thought it was well written. I think it speaks for itself. And I think that given that council solicited this opinion, and I think it comes from a reputable firm who specializes in this area of law, I think council can rely upon it moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. Does anybody have any questions for the town attorney at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. Appreciate you. All right, next item on the agenda is the public hearing for resolution number 2023-0701 to rezone approximately 31 acres from R1 to R2 in the 300 block of Marywood Farm Road. This is our second public hearing on this matter. I would remind folks that you have 3 minutes and to please state your name and your address and to speak into the microphone so that folks online can hear you. Mrs. McCade, do we have anyone signed up?
David Davino.
Hi, my name is Dave Davino. My address is 105 Jesse's Way. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think I've been here before. I guess my opinion is pretty much kind of been well documented or noted, but I just want to kind of just reaffirm some of the key points that I have made in previous meetings here regarding kind of my concerns of the rezoning from R1 to R2. And one of the big kind of concerns I have is regarding that we still don't really have any specifics regarding the amount of building that Harper's Associates plans to do with the R2 designation. So going to an R2 gives really great latitude for Harper's Associates to really kind of build up, beyond what was originally designed for for an R1 designation, so townhouses and so forth. And so I would hope that the town council here would not cede their power to Harper's until they get kind of more specifics. And I'm also concerned about the community impact. I know Harper's Associates did a traffic study, but I question the independence of that Harper study. And the study doesn't really take into account for the impact of future building that goes beyond probably the other potential for development in the area. There is a lot of land there to develop, so I'm wondering if this is kind of in a compounding effect. So the study talks about how R2, that's not really independent, how that will affect traffic. But if you take that into consideration with all the other land that has a potential for building in an area that's really kind of traffic heavy, can really impact the neighborhoods and the residents in that area regarding kind of the traffic patterns. And then also the potential for loss of habitat with more concentrated buildings and homes from an R1 to an R2. That includes townhomes, that the impact of wildlife and habitat loss. I don't know if there was really any impact study on that as well. So I really just asked the council to really, deny, kind of at this point, Harbor's redesignating from R1 to R2, and not to kind of cede your power until you have more specifics regarding the amount of building in that area and how that will impact the community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davino. Mrs. McKay, do we have anyone else signed up to speak?
Robert Dillman.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Robert Dillman. Address is 109 Jesse's Way. This development comes closest to our property than any other. That's certainly one concern we have. But on a community-wide basis, to be clear, my wife and I are a no on this. And we, because of the uncertainties that are involved still, we've heard the representative of the developer express some quantification, but all of it seems to be without a real binding effect. So we still have concerns about the traffic density, the actual density of the housing itself, what affordable housing really means, as well as the real impact on services such as sewer, water, and electric. So for those reasons, we're very apprehensive about this rezoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. McKay?
No one else has signed up.
All right. We did also receive a letter that was addressed to all of council from Jerry and Linda Spates and Dr. Edward Gordon and Pam Gordon. And they expressed that they were opposed to the project as suggested from zoning from R1 to R2. At this time, I would also ask if Will Allen is present at the moment. You have anything to add to the conversation, sir, at this time? Or are you going to speak later when that comes up? Okay. I think some of the specifics that were brought up will be addressed shortly when we get to that item on the agenda. No one else signed up to speak for the public hearing at this time.
No, sir.
We will close that public hearing. Next item is the public comment period. Once again, I'll remind folks that you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address. And Ms. McKay, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
Sarah Maddox was signed up, but she has rescheduled. We have a Jesse Franzblow who is calling in.
All right.
Mr. Franzblow, are you there?
We can move on to the on-hand folks and then circle back if they've come back around.
Beatrice Batras?
Welcome.
Hola. Hi, good evening. We're going to go ahead with this public comment. It's going to be interpreted from Spanish into English, so we're going to take advantage of the allowed 6 minutes, the 3 minutes for the comment and the 3 minutes for the interpretation.
Buenas tardes, yo soy Beatriz Batres. Esta es mi tercera vez de estar en Farmville. La primera vez fue cuando vine a visitar a mi esposo en la detención de Farmville. La segunda, afortunadamente, fue para llevarlo a casa. Y en esta oportunidad estoy frente a ustedes para compartir el hecho de todo lo que sucede dentro de Farmville y cómo afecta a nuestras comunidades. Es bien difícil porque son demasiadas emociones revueltas, pero fue un tiempo difícil para mí y para mis hijos cuando preguntaban dónde estaba su papá y el no saber si responder, si venía o no íbamos a volver a verle. Mirarles a ellos que llegaba la noche y se desvelaban esperando que su papá llegara, eso fue algo que a todos nos afectó todavía. Cuando lo vine a ver y verlo vestido de naranja, con cadenas en los pies, sin casi poder tener un contacto físico, fue bien difícil, pero más difícil fue escuchar que él me dijo que no volviera a visitarlo y pregunté por qué. Dijo simplemente, no quiero, y nunca entendí hasta tiempo después. Con seguridad puedo decirles que soy la voz de miles de personas, de miles de familias, de mujeres, madres, que están enfrentando esta situación. Porque, y a lo mejor no sea importante para muchos, porque no somos personas locales, porque a lo mejor no son ustedes y nunca van a saber qué significa estar frente a una deportación y enfrentarse a separarse de sus familias. Pero para nosotros es importante que esa detención pueda ser cerrada definitivamente. Farmville es un lugar que hace demasiado daño a nuestras comunidades. No sé ustedes cómo se sintieran si después de que un familiar les visitara, un grupo de oficiales o un grupo de personas como las que estamos aquí les hacen ir al centro para ponerse en cuclillas, quitarse sus pantalones, estar frente a otros hombres y que les digan agáchate porque queremos ver si no traes algo que vas a llevar adentro como contrabando dentro de tu recto, y eso es abuso sexual.
This is my third visit to Farmville. The first time when I came, it was to see my husband in the detention center in Farmville. I do remember how I felt and all the emotions that I had. I had been some time without seeing him, and it was difficult. I didn't know how it was going to be, if I was going to see him again. Be able to have to see my children constantly asking for his father and not knowing what to respond to them was something so very difficult. To see them arrive at night and staying awake through the night, hoping that they will be able to see him, me trying to not fall apart in front of them, it was really challenging. It's still really difficult to remember those things. To see him dressed in orange with chains without being able to really have physical contact with him was difficult. But it was even more difficult to listen that he didn't want me to return to see him like that. It was in that moment I didn't understand, and I asked why. He just kept on saying, I don't want you to. After fighting, he was finally free, and he is with us now. But those years were not easy. The trauma that created his detention create a mark in our lives. With confidence, I can tell you that I am one of the voices of thousands of people that face this difficult situation. And it might be that it's not of the same importance to you because maybe we are not local people here, because maybe you think that you might never have to face a situation like this one. And you might be right, but we are human beings. We deserve our lives and that our rights can be respected. Years after, and listening to my husband saying that he didn't want me to visit him back at Farmville, it was connected to the fact that they asked him to get naked completely and to bend to ensure that he didn't have any product on his anus. And I wonder how you might feel if that was to happen to you in front of many staff people, listening to them laughing and making fun of him. It's traumatic. I don't know about you, but that's called sexual abuse. It's emotional abuse, and no one talks about those things. How is it possible that they cannot share? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
We have Electra Bolitas.
Hello, my name is Electra, and I'm from Fosters, Virginia. I am testifying today to urge the town of Farmville to cancel its contract with the private prison company that runs Farmville Detention Center this September 15th. You all have the power to end the unnecessary suffering of community members that come from all over this region and who are incarcerated at Farmville. This issue affects so many families and people, not only in Virginia, but in many states. Mayor Brian Vincent, you have 2 young girls, ages 8 and 10. I want you to know about Jose Virgilio's daughter, who is also around 8. She loves to dance and draw. I had the pleasure of meeting her. Her dad, Jose, was deported from Farmville in 2020. He was somebody who spoke out against being infected with COVID, in the largest outbreak of COVID in a detention center around the US. He is still unable to walk because of painful injuries he received while in detention here in Farmville. Since he is unable to walk, he has also not been able to work for 3 years. This detention center destroyed his connection to his daughter and his physical health, but he is still in community and is fighting to shut down Farmville Detention Center so that no one else has to suffer the loss of their health and family. Will you make the right decision and refuse to renew the contract on September 15th so that people like Jose can remain in our community with their family? Mr. Chucky Reed, you have witnessed firsthand the racism and structural oppression in Farmville after Barbara Jones and other youth striked against poor conditions at her high school in Farmville in 1952. And we're part of a generation that was denied an education after the school's closing. You have witnessed the power of people organizing and the potential people have to refuse mistreatment. Are you aware of the hunger strikes in Farmville? In 2020, people refused to accept medical neglect, refused to die in a cell just because of their nationality. Will you do the right thing and refuse to sign the renewal on September 15th? James Hill and Annabelle Ramirez have already died in Farmville, and countless others have lifelong injuries from mistreatment, rotten food, and medical neglect. Will you use your power to ensure that no one else dies on your watch in these cells? Why not instead invest in education, expand Longwood University, and invite people to use this historic town to learn and build, instead of being caged in a death trap that is Farmville Detention Center? In September, you will have to make a choice, and we will be watching. Will you commit to shutting Farmville Detention Center down and instead invest in life-giving institutions? Mr. Daniel Dwyer and others, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Amber Qureshi.
Good evening, members of the Town Council. My name is Amber Qureshi. I'm an attorney with the National Immigration Project. I'm based in Washington, D.C. You have heard today and during last month's meeting, several residents of this town voiced their concerns over this rezoning issue that you're deliberating. And what residents have clearly said is that they want you to put the people of this town over the profiteers. Russell Harper, who established Harper Associates, does not care about the people of this town. He's a businessman looking for a lucrative business opportunity, and so long as the market allows him to make a profit, it does not matter if his investments ruin people's lives, causes them to suffer, displaces them from their homes, or causes negative environmental impacts. About 15 years ago, this council decided to give another one of Mr. Harper's companies control to run an immigration detention center in Farmville. And over the course of over a decade, that detention center and this town's reputation has become known for enabling brutality and abuse of immigrants. People not too different from myself and my family who came to this country searching for a better life for themselves and their families. I would like to deliver to you today a memo of the history of that abuse. That memo contains 13 years worth of evidence of harsh conditions inside the Farmville Detention Center, including use of force, solitary confinement, retaliation by staff, inadequate medical and mental health care, meager and barely edible food, and limited access to attorneys and family members. It is imperative that you listen to the voices of those who have been telling you for years that they are suffering and have suffered in this town. And all of this has happened because Mr. Harper saw a lucrative business opportunity, and this town was perfectly content sending money to this private prison company. And I want to be very clear, this all happened under your watch and under your leadership, because you are enabling and allowing people like Mr. Harper to profit off of exploitation and abuse. You have the choice to end the contract for the Farmville Detention Center, and I urge you not to look away from the death and destruction that this facility has caused, and put the lives and dignity of human beings over profits. And if I may just present this memo to Ms. McKay. All right, thank you.
Ms. McKay?
Leanne Gale.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Gale, and I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Justice Center, LAJC. My office is based in Falls Church, Virginia. I'm also a member of the Free Them All Virginia Coalition. On behalf of my colleagues and in honor of the many clients we have served at the Farmville Detention Center, I strongly urge the Farmville Town Council to cut all ties with the private detention company, Immigration Centers of America, and to terminate your intergovernmental service agreement with ICE. LAJC is a Virginia-based nonprofit that provides legal and advocacy services to low-income communities. Through the Immigrant Justice Program, we represent immigrants in their efforts to access justice. We have represented countless individuals at the Farmville Detention Center over the years and are sadly familiar with the abuses they experience behind closed doors. I'm here to urge you, members of the council, not to look away. In 2020, LAJC, along with the National Immigration Project and the law firm Gibson Dunn, brought a lawsuit against ICE and ICA Farmville on behalf of 14 people who were infected with COVID-19 due to the Farmville Detention Center's horrific mismanagement of the pandemic. Our clients were pepper sprayed while they were already struggling to breathe. Many of them thought they were going to die and continue to live with the trauma of what they experienced. Farmville actually had the biggest COVID-19 outbreak of any detention center in the country, endangering not just the individuals detained, but every member of the local community. The whole world was watching as immigrants at Farmville went on hunger strike, demanding to be treated like human beings. But even as an attorney who worked on that litigation, I'm here to tell you that the COVID-19 issues at Farmville were just the tip of the iceberg. Now that Farmville has reopened to transfers, we've learned that the facility has shut down all legal calls for individuals detained there, massively violating their due process rights as they navigate their immigration cases, much as my grandparents did when they came to this country from Poland fleeing anti-Semitism. A few months ago, we heard on account of guards brutalizing an individual with mental health issues, stripping him naked, pepper spraying him, and leaving him injured without food or water for hours. As the numbers of individuals at Farmville increases, we are mindful of its history of perpetrating medical neglect, serving spoiled food, using excessive force, and throwing individuals with mental health issues into solitary confinement. In terminating your agreement with ICE and ICA, the town of Farmville would be taking a strong stand that you will not stand idly by the abuse of immigrants in your backyard. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Flor Lopez.
Good evening. My name is Flor Lopez, and I am an immigrant community organizer with Legal Aid Justice Center based in Richmond office. If you are not familiar with what organizers we do, I think that there's some skills that both of us have in common, right? Like I think that you all are seated here because the people of the town choose you and elect you to listen to their needs and advocate on behalf of them. And that's what we organizers do. And I'm here on behalf of the many people that cannot be here, the many people that are afraid to come here and share their truth because of the trauma that they have endured in the facility of Farmville, because of the fear that they have that they might come back to that place because they were deported and they're not any longer in this country. Safety. I think that we all have some values in common. I think that safety is something that we all can agree that every single human being deserves. And I think that there's some disconnect about the values and the goals of what we need to be practicing and the decisions that have been made here. Every single year that detention facility remains open, there continues to be more abuse, mistreatment, medical neglect. People have died. It will continue to happen. Like my colleagues have been sharing, you have the power in your hands to stop that. And not only the power, you have the responsibility. You have the responsibility to listen to the needs of your community. I think that the people, the residents here in Farmville, are people who want to celebrate human life and want to support and uplift one another. And it's a problem that's not being reflected on the decisions that this town council is making. I just invite you to think about that. And I think that it's easy to not think about it when we don't feel close to the issue, when we somehow dehumanize the people that go into detention centers. But why so, right? They're people just like you and me. we're all human beings. We all deserve safety. What's the difference? The place that we were allowed and had the privilege to born at? Just ask you to think about all that. Thank you.
Mr. Franz Blau, are you there? We can hear you. Can you state your name?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Jesse Francois. I'm a senior policy analyst at the National Immigrant Justice Center. On behalf of my colleagues and the thousands of individuals that NIJC serves every year, I'd like to express our strong support for the Virginia community, calling on the Farmville Town Council to end its complicity in the inhumane immigration detention system, cut its ties with the private detention company Immigration Centers of America, ICA, and end its contract with ICE. The town should consider steps forward towards a just transition away from incarceration and towards a sustainable economy, and make a historic decision to not renew its contract with ICE next month. ICE's detention system is overwhelmingly outsourced to for-profit prison companies such as ICA. ICE and its contractors are notorious for subjecting people to inhumane conditions, as well as sexual assault, violent abuse, medical neglect, retaliation, and punitive use of solitary confinement. The system is also very wasteful. ICE spends billions on private contractors in an unfair and unaccountable revolving door system that perversely incentivizes the jailing of migrants. The detention center at Farmville has a dark history of abuse and impunity, including medical neglect, indiscriminate use of pepper spray, rotten food, threats and retaliation against people protesting inhumane conditions. In August 2020, members of Congress wrote a letter to Russell Harper, the CEO of ICA, expressing concerns about the inhumane conditions and demanding answers of what he was doing to keep safe people in the facility. But that same day, ICE announced the death of James Hill, the Canadian man who died at ICA Farmville in 2020. Over the years, the company ICA has relied on the Farmville Detention Center for its profit. The company brings in around $24 million a year to operate the detention center. The CEO of ICA also runs a real estate development, investment, and management company, and is pushing for a zoning project being discussed today. Immigration detention should not be treated as an industry to line corporate profits at the expense of public resources, human rights, and dignity. In ending the IGSA with ICE will prevent ICAA from continuing to get rich from exploiting the town of Farmville. Today, the town council can be on the right side of history, moving away from profiting from the incarceration of migrants as the nation becomes more vigilant about systemic human rights violations that occur in ICE detention. The spotlight is on Farmville to end your complicity in such abuses.
Are you there, Mr. Franz Blau? Are you finished?
Yes, could you hear me at all? I'm hearing that the connection is bad.
Yes, you have like 12 seconds left. Do you have anything else to say?
It sounds like the connection is very bad. It sounds like the technical issues are making it very inaccessible.
Your time is up, sir.
Do we have anyone else in the chambers, Ms. McKay?
No one else has signed up.
Thank you. I guess I feel compelled to make a few statements. One, I have toured the facility personally. I've also spoken to reporters at Charlottesville Progress and VPN about the ICA facility. So you can always visit those documents or interviews for my perspective personally. I will say that the immigration system in this country is a broken system. That's not any grand news to anybody in this room. But it's not incentivized to be fixed. It's a political football. It's positioning for partisan politics. And unfortunately, there are human lives that sit at that nexus. But that is not a issue that we can solve. Now, from my understanding, this body could elect to separate itself from the ICA facility, but I don't believe that shuts that facility down by any stretch of the imagination. Virginia stands as a very small player in a much larger system. You look at the numbers in Texas and other places like that, they're much larger than ours. This current administration seems to be erring, or it seemed to be at one point erring more on the side of electronic monitoring and alternatives to detention, which some people view as good. But that is neither here nor there for us. For us, we do have a relationship with that ICA facility. We're not the only locality in Virginia who does. There's another. Whether or not we are a part of it, I don't think has any bearing on whether or not it exists. But we thank you for your time and for coming to speak to us and for doing so in person. So thank you for that. That said, next item, do we have anybody else signed up for comment?
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have the draft minutes from the July 5th work session and the July 12th regular council meeting. Do I have anybody who wishes to change anything, or do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next item up on the agenda is the finance report. Mrs. Julie Moore for the July 2023 finance report.
Good evening. You have the July finance report in front of you. For July, we earned a total of $17,456 at VIP, which makes the total that we've earned so far with VIP to be $61,545. We also earned $16,735 in the sweep accounts, and that makes a total of earning $49,436 with benchmark sweep accounts since we started up with those. We also earned $41,730 with our money invested in LGIP, which means we've earned a total of $381,251 since investing in LGIP, which is basically a whole year's worth because we started last August. So for the month of July, we ended up earning $75,923 in interest. The only other thing I'd like to point out in the financial report is you'll notice that the street maintenance fund cash dropped, and that's due to the paving that was done in June that we paid in July, and that was $927,777. Any questions?
Do we have any questions for Ms. Moore? Oh, here, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the finance report as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda is probably the meat of this is the old business. We have the request adoption of Resolution 2023-0701 to rezone approximately 31 acres of R1 to R2 300 block of Marywood Farm Road. In light of comments earlier, it's not proper for a governing body to rule on an issue based off their opinion of or against somebody. You have to take it on its merit as it stands on its own. So while I appreciate the comments earlier, I don't think it has any bearing on this particular issue at hand. Mr. Davis, do you have any comments to kick us off?
I will give you a little update since our last meeting on this project. Harper and Associates has voluntarily offered a proffer statement with 5 proffers. It is for those 3 pieces of property. 1, the definitions of single-family, detached, and townhomes will be used as defined in the current zoning ordinance. 2, the project shall not allow more than 140 units total. 3, the minimum lot size for townhomes shall be 1,600 square feet. 4, the minimum yard setback shall be a front yard setback of 10 feet measured from the right-of-way, a rear yard of 15 feet, and a 0 side yard. And 5, the maximum building height of a townhome shall be 35 feet. One of the statements in here is that was of concern in the past was if they did not do this, would it be a wide open field for the sale of the property to the next owner? The next paragraph states the applicant and owner and their respective successors or assigns do hereby agree that the development of the property or properties will be in conformance of these proffers. These proffers are a part of the zoning request. The conditions of these proffers are legally binding. Non-compliance with the proffers constitutes a zoning violation. And the applicant/owner has voluntarily offered those as a part of the rezoning request, which is new for many of the other meetings with the Planning Commission or this council.
And I believe Mr. Will Allen is here if anybody has any questions for him. Do we have any discussion considering this matter at this time?
I got one question. How do you have 0 sides as far as in that request? As far as you mean you literally can set one beside the other?
Well, usually they are. There's nothing but a firewall between them.
That's it?
That's why it's a 0 side yard.
Okay.
Because each townhome
Is
is a
separate.
parcel, is a separate piece of property.
Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate Mr. Allen presenting your proffer. I take that as a very positive thing. Appreciate your taking the time to think through that and presenting that. I have tonight it's popped up a couple times by the folks in their comments. Mr. Davis says, will our water and sewer system accommodate this development if it were to come to light?
It's the same answer as I think Mr. Allen and I can give you from the last meeting, and that is that until they do a more complete study, which they do not normally do at this stage in a development, that you won't know what that is. But they will have to either enhance the system at their cost, or it will meet what the current system can take, whether as far as water and sewer. But the cost of that is not going to, the developer's not going to spend that amount of money for an in-depth study until they are further in the process. But you do have the preliminary study from VHB, I think it is. And the concern of an independent study, I've worked in another locality and been to others for these. There's never an independent study outside that I'm aware of than the applicant producing that, because the individuals that are doing the studies are professional engineers who I guess they can, but professionally and based on their license, should not lie about the study and what its details are. And so, you know, the town's not going to pay the cost. It's the developer's responsibility to pay the cost of providing that information.
I recall that from last time. I just thought it bear repeating.
Do you have any other questions at this time? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we rezone the property from R1 to R2.
Second.
Motion and second.
Actually, can I ask Mr. Parrott to amend his motion to adopt resolution number 2023-0701, and that will suffice, please?
My apologies. I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2023-07-01 to rezone approximately 31 acres from R1 to R2.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer? Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
No.
With 4 voting yes and 1 voting no, the motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Now we move into new business. New business first item is authorize town manager to sign deed of easement on behalf of the town for fiber new facilities building. Mr. Davis?
I just need council's authorization for me to sign a deed of easement for Longwood University to carry fiber from their side of their main area in Farmville, crossing 2 public streets to get to their new facilities building, which will be behind Midtown that's being built right now.
I'm assuming that's all underground.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Davis at this time? Do we need a motion on the floor?
I'd like to make the motion that we authorize the town manager to sign the deed of easement on behalf of the town for fiber new facilities building.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
On unanimous vote, the motion is passed.
Thank you. Next item on new business is request adoption of resolution number 2023-0801 for approval of the safety stick technology for monitoring and enforcement of illegal parking areas. Chief Ellington gave us a report on this at the work session. Is there any discussion or a motion on the floor regarding the safety stick?
I make a motion, we adopt the resolution number 2023-0801, approval of safety stick technology for monitoring and enforcement of illegal parking areas.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
On unanimous vote, the motion is passed.
Thank you. Next item is request adoption of resolution number 2023-0802, which is approval of the enterprise zone local economic development incentive for architectural services reimbursement. Mr. Davis.
Mayor, members of council, if you're familiar, we are in part have a large portion of the enterprise zone through our town, which is actually sponsored by the county through the Commonwealth of Virginia. And in that, we offer some local incentives, and one of those is the reimbursement for architectural services in the historic downtown area. And Ms. Caton is the owner of 216 North Main Street and has spent funds on architectural study for that building, which meets the criteria for that reimbursement. And she's asking that council approve the reimbursement for that study in that area.
Any discussion or motion on the floor regarding Resolution 2023-0802?
I make a motion, we adopt a resolution 2023-0802, approval of the Enterprise Zone Local Economic Development Incentive for Architectural Services reimbursement.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion regarding the enterprise zone? Not hearing it. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
On unanimous vote, the motion is passed.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mr. Davis.
It won't take me but about 30 minutes. Y'all just bear with me, all right? Just a few major topics that are continuing to progress. Last month, myself, Ashley, and members of Longwood University met with VDOT representatives in the vicinity of where the roundabout will be coming. Just to give you an idea of where they are, they have the preliminary plans complete. If you see those stakes out there in the yard of one of those houses and coming up from their parking lot, that is going to be where the curb, if you will, of the new road will be in one area. So it'll be going around that direction. VDOT is tentatively scheduled to hold a public hearing on this project July of 2024. Their public hearing is a little different than the ones here. It's more of a meet and greet. People ask questions, not, yes or no or deny the actual project. And then tentatively, they're going to advertise for contractors for the project in July of 2026 and hope that the construction will begin that October of 2026. So that goes to say that our plan was to look at using ARPA funds, and this is another discussion for a work session, to assist in the area that they're not going to be doing construction. In the construction area, they will be replacing and moving any utilities that need to be done for that area within that construction area. Beyond that is our responsibility. So up and down High Street, Oak, or Appomattox. With the dates that are here, our ARPA funds have to be committed by the end of 24 and have to be spent by 26. So we need to have a discussion about the money that we've been saving, putting it towards capital improvement of this particular area, and using those ARPA funds for other infrastructure for water and sewer within the town limits, that we can get that done. The reason I say that is because we have a better chance of the contractor that they hire getting their utility subcontractor to do some work hopefully before on one end and after on the other end, if we can plan it out that way of while they're here or going to be here in that time frame, instead of trying to do it 2 years ahead of time and then leaving something in the middle that they're going to pay for. And I don't know that we could hook up that way, depending on how old the lines are. Which leads me to the other one where we're still working with Hurt and Profit. Staff is on getting all the internal information that we have on different water and sewer infrastructure. As I said, that's a first step. I'll be coming back to you requesting some of that ARPA money to spend for them to probably do a more deep dive into what we don't know that's underground. ABM project, we've narrowed, we met after the last council meeting with them again. Pretty lengthy amount of time to narrow down some scope to bring back. And we narrowed down water meters, AMI water meters, down to 2 different brands and 2 different technologies. One that has the ability to read by cellular technology, and the other with connectors, which are having it, we would have to put antennas in different designated areas that they deem in order to read it remotely to come into our system. So 2 different companies do it 2 different ways that we've narrowed that down to get a different price perspective of and functionality. Parking meters for out front and any of our currently paid areas. We talked about that. We're looking at new meters that could have one of 2 new additions, not only existing, but 2 new additions on a new meter. And that is an app that you can pay or have card service, a credit card, debit card service on the meter. And of course, we would always still allow coins. Depending on the cost, which we'll get that feedback, at the minimum, in order for this to be sensible to even change and have any other technology beside coins, you're looking at changing the rate of parking from what we have, which I think is 25 cents for 30 minutes, to $1 an hour for this to work, monetarily. And so that's the minimum. It could be more because the app has a cost as well, in addition to what the card would cost. And we're also looking at solar panels to pretty much in some way alleviate our, maybe not every month, but overall alleviate our power bill at the water and wastewater treatment plant if we were to install solar panels at those 2 locations. So a long-term savings for that. And so we're looking at that with them further before we bring back the whole package. Splash Pad, we meet next week with some people from those companies on site to lay it out, and we're still hoping to start that project in September to break ground. And then I had a few council members wanting to play on the playground at Andrews Drive, I think, and so I wanted to give an update on that. That's jokingly, by the way, for all of you. If you notice, if you go by there, we're currently working on assembling the product that was donated to us from the local Methodist church, and while we're still working on other projects. So we're hoping to be in the next few weeks done with that project, and then it'll be able to be used. Other than that, Mayor, I don't have anything else to report, but I'll be happy to answer questions if there are any that people may have.
Any questions for Mr. Davis at this time?
I would like to just, this is probably not feasible, maybe there's not technology to improve it. Our phone-in calls that we receive here for meetings, is there anything out there that's better than what we're doing? And if it's possible, then maybe we can check into it. I feel like we're not, maybe it's just me, I'm not hearing well enough to do it justice.
I mean, it's up to you all if you want to continue to have phone-in calls. The only reason we went to that is because of COVID, and people could not come to the building or didn't want to come to the building. We're open for business, and so it's been in the past where if you wanted to make remarks, it was in person. So that's up to the council and the mayor to decide if you want to continue that that ability for people to call in. 1, 2, we can look at other technology. I'm not sure. I mean, this is the same one we used because of the COVID pandemic, and it was something that we could find, do it, and get it implemented. I'll tell you, it's not that expensive, but I don't know what the others would be beyond that for the amount of use that we use it.
Just for me, I think we ought to explore I mean, whether or not we want to continue, obviously, that's one issue. And that would dictate whether or not we should look at something better. But I think what we have now, I understand why it's in place and all that, but I think it falls short, personally.
Why don't we suggest that maybe our town manager explore that possibility and we discuss it on our next work session?
If not the next, I'll bring it to a work session, please.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, this time we'll go around the room for comments. Mr. Hardy?
I just want to say I go through on Andrews Drive 4 or 5 times a day, and I went through there today, and I was like, yes, I was very excited to see the playground starting to go up. And no, I did not want to go play on it, but I'm very excited to see that, and I'll be glad to see when it's ready to go. And I think you got the new trash cans at the basketball courts there, which they're the nice heavy duty trash cans, and that's all really awesome. Thank you.
We were waiting on a grant that we did not get for those, and so after we didn't get the grant, we purchased them, and that was the delay. We'd rather get ones for free than to have to purchase them from town funds, but the grant didn't come through, so we ended up purchasing them.
Mr. Yolen?
Yep. Hey, Robin, thank you very much for the work on Andrew Drive. It does look really great. It's good to see the facilities up. You guys did an excellent job as always. Mr. Davino, Mr. Gilman, thank you very much for coming in and your comments both this month and last month. I hope some of you got the answers you were looking for, a little bit more details that we're trying to wrangle out of the developers coming in. We're trying our best to look out for you and for the folks who live next to you and the area. So thank you very much for showing up. Appreciate that.
Mr. Parrott?
I'll echo what Mr. Yolen was saying. I heard what you said loud and clear. I felt like we had some explanations that were answered tonight that we did not have prior to tonight, and I hope that that will meet your needs as well. But thank you for your input.
Mr. Dwyer?
I agree with you guys, really. Without input, we're lost. As somebody was telling me today, I made the comment, I'm always looking for the right answer to how to vote on something, and this person pointed out that perhaps the thing to do is look for the best answer. In my opinion, this was the best answer we could come up with. But anyway, I am going to be one of the people playing on that playground, and and I appreciate you finishing it up real quick. Thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, I just echo everything that's been said, but I have a question about the roundabout. Did you have a discussion about the tree that was donated by the White House? Would they be able to discuss that at the?
I'm sure they'll cover that. It wasn't actually donated by the White House.
You know.
There's a few different stories of that tree.
Correct. We got to get the right story.
Right. And I will tell you the discussion on site was that particular tree is right in the middle of the roadway. Probably not going to make it.
Can I add one thing, Scott? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
From a couple years ago, I believe some folks are actually in the process of grafting parts of that tree, so it lives on.
They have already, is my understanding. They have. It is my understanding. The other tree, I think, that has been talked about is the one that is on in between the two small houses that Longwood owns. Rather large tree. As their arborist was on site, stated, and I think they're going to obviously take comments and all that, is the project's going to kill a lot of the roots if they leave it, which over time the tree will die. In his opinion, the best thing to do instead of it starting to die and it falling apart while people are driving is to remove it during the construction period. But yes, I think they will put out some information on that at that public hearing and prior.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I would.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I say one other thing? The other thing they talk about, though, is by taking it down, what can we replace it with? And so we can look at other areas that will be open to plant something that will be able to eventually take its place in another 35 years or so. And then beautify the area around the roundabout in some fashion. But you also got to look at the maintenance ability of it, because we have one horticulturist on staff that sometimes gets a helper that has to maintain all of those things. And so that's the other thing of, in that traffic, in the middle of that, how do we maintain it and those types of things? What's feasible?
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. I would like to, in her absence, I hope Ms. Amos is feeling okay. She was a little under the weather this evening. I would like to congratulate her for her appointment to the position on the Advisory Committee on Juvenile Justice and Prevention. That hit the news, a governor-appointed position, so congratulations to Ms. Amos, and I'm sure she will represent our region well in that endeavor. Also like to say thank you to the Parkview Gardens folks. They had a summer celebration recently, and most of council, I believe, was there, as well as chief and everybody hanging out and celebrating. It was a good occasion. But that also brings up the news that the National Night Out, which we typically have in August, has been moved to October 3rd, and that will be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So that everybody can enjoy it with perhaps a little less sweat. There'll be a good occasion. It's always a fun event, and looking forward to that. My comings and goings were pretty short this past month. I did attend the Go Virginia recently used some grant money to create a regional economic development advisory board for the Commonwealth's Regional Council, CRC. And I was asked to serve on that board and sat in on a meeting with those folks at CRC and some other surrounding Board of Supervisors members from counties that surround Farmville. And had some good information about employment in our region, employment prospects going forward, and some project potentials on the horizon. And so I'm grateful and honored to serve on that board and represent our area. And we'll keep you abreast of any new developments that come from that. That said, is there any other additional comments or anything else business needs to be brought up this evening? Not hearing any, I would. Yes, ma'am. Public comment periods at the beginning of the meeting. Yes, ma'am. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank y'all.